Pleasure Monkey Nation, welcome back to the show. On this episode, we're hanging out with Allie Waddell. She is an absolute wellness gangster, and she's sitting right here with me. Allie, what did we go into in the show today?
We talked about how do you look at your life and figure out your programming? How do you make choices to be the person that you want to become? And then that life doesn't go in a straight line. Nature doesn't go in a straight line. And how do you really let it flow through you and go into the flow as opposed to trying to hyper control it?
Yeah, get rid of that death grip on expectations.
Yeah, death grip on expectations, bad. And then how do you use plant medicine to kind of expand your mindset and really become more open to the universe and what it's bringing you, and maybe don't make a dream board.
There was a long-winded rant in there about me talking about how the law of attraction is bullshit.
Yeah,
so if that triggers
true.
you should definitely listen to the episode.
You should definitely.
And if you think that's awesome, you should also listen to the episode. And if it doesn't matter to you, still listen to the episode.
Yeah, you're already here. You might as well listen.
If you're here, listen. It's going to be fantastic. All right, well, let's do it.
Let's do it.
But before we jump into the show, you know we got to give some love to our homies over at Onnit.com. And I know you guys hear what I have to say about Onnit on a regular basis, but I want to hear what Allie has to say about Onnit and her favorite Onnit sups and gear.
I'm obsessed with Onnit. That's just the reality. even if they weren't sponsoring the podcast. But my favorite really is the gut health packets, because it gives you a probiotic, it gives you a prebiotic, it gives you an enzyme, digestive enzyme, and it's one of those things that a lot of people, as we learn more and more about gut biome, how closely it's tied into your emotional health and your immunity and everything. I just think we're going to just really break it down that if that stuff is not working right, you're not going to be functioning as well as you could, and you're definitely not going to thrive. And I really do believe a lot of supplements, you can't tell that they're working. Yeah. You really can't. You're like, I think this is working. I'm supposed to take this. But that gut health packet, you can actually tell.
Yeah, they're the best.
You can tell. Hands down, and it's one of my biggest recommendations.
The gut health pack is so great because it puts it all into one one thing. It's like, okay, cool. Oh, I take this every other day when I eat a meal. Cool, done, easy.
Yeah,
there's not even. It's $32.
Yeah,
but you get 10% off if you go to onnit.com/monkey.
Nailed it.
Get it, guys. Gut health pack. You're gonna have good poops. You're gonna have good hormonal balance.
Yeah, you're not gonna be a dick. Don't be a dick. Just like the outside and native says, don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick. Onnit.com/monkey.
That's bananas.
Well, I mean,
it's like you and Kyle Kingsbury.
me and Kyle cruise around. It's really fun. Well,
Kyle is so goofy. I love that guy. I'm obsessed with him.
Kyle is one of my favorite human beings on the planet.
Yeah.
For sure. But I grew up as this, I was this fat kid who couldn't, I was awkward talking to girls and sweat a lot, and I couldn't, I was awkward. I was it was weird, and my parents were and I smelled like cigarettes when my parents smoked, and it was I was hella embarrassed all the time. And then I morphed into this human, and I never, it's I didn't come to terms with it. It was I got a whole new life, and I'm just what in the fuck life is crazy. And I had a conversation with a girl the other day, and I could see her, right? And I was you haven't always been hot. And she's super cute, and she's very sexy. She's got this, and she flirts.
That's the best though.
Yeah, she flirts like I flirt, where it's I didn't always have this. I didn't get this attention always. So now that I have it, I play with it. It's like a toy. It's not even real life anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't feel.
It's oh, I didn't have this, and now it's a new. It's someone gave you a superpower
exactly.
At 25. Yeah, and you're wow, oh, cool. I mean, I was probably 25 when I started to realize that I might kind of be attractive.
Yeah,
and people think that I'm a narcissistic piece of shit, but I really looked at my life and I was man, I've dated really beautiful girls, and they're all awesome to boot. The girlfriends I've had in my life have all been amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm I must be attractive or something. It was so weird. And I was what are they doing? Do
they not see who I am?
Yeah, do they not know who I am? And it's it's so funny.
Yeah. I was a hyper nerd. Went to space camp, had glasses this big. I'm legally blind, so they're this thick. I mean, I was the dorkiest dorky kid. And then my dad's an artist, so I never matched because he was all about coordination, not matching. So I wear crazy patterns and I gave no shits at all. until I was like in high school, and then I was still super dorky because then I was in FFA and I like raised animals. This was really country and like.
Oh, FFA was cool.
It was awesome. I had pigs. I went to the livestock show.
We used to go to livestock shows.
It was so fun.
It's so weird.
So
we would
fun.
We would play. Legit. This is a real story. When I was like 14, we would go to livestock shows and play craps. I was like playing craps with quarters at a livestock show when I was like 13, 14, 15 years old.
Where?
In Graham, Texas.
Yes. That's amazing.
And even then, talking about the transitions in life, like sometimes I look around at my life now and I'm like, how in the fuck did I get here? What is going on? I'm like, what? Like I grew up in like racist North Texas, like in the Bible Belt, and now I live in Austin and I like do this.
Yeah.
Like I'm talking to you right now. This is absolutely incredible. It doesn't make any sense, and it gives you such a weird context. I feel like I've lived like 7 lives.
Well, it's also one of those things like it's where people are really big into planning, and then you look at your life and you're like, would you ever at 20 have thought that this, like, I'm like, I love that people plan stuff, and then I'm like, and then it never turns out that way. No, I would have never said in a million years I'd be like doing podcasts and video and all that stuff. I was shy as shit.
Yeah, I couldn't even have a conversation. And it's funny because speaking about this, like the reason, so I grew up in this, I didn't get a lot of attention. And on top of that, like my mom was an addict and she would like come back into my life and be like, hey, everything's going to be okay. And I was super young, like 6, 7, 8, up until like 13. And then would just disappear again for months. So it's like I was always kind of like trying to seek that, I had like these abandonment kind of issues early on that I didn't understand. But I was also like a fat kid, and I was good at football kind of because I was really big. Like I hit 6 foot, like 200 pounds in the 7th grade. Like I was a big kid.
Yeah.
And so I got attention. Like my social currency was saying kind of ridiculous shit all the time.
Yeah.
That's stuff most people wouldn't say because that was the best way for me to get attention.
Yeah.
Fast forward 20 years, here I am now. And it's like I still act that way, but as a completely different person. So people are just like, this fucking guy is a lot. Like, if you listen to the podcast, you get an hour a week. If you listen to in the online community, you get a couple hours a week of whatever. And I've turned all that energy into, because I've always really wanted to help people because I saw what it's like to change your life. And that was really fun for me. Yeah. And it made life make more sense. I'm like, if I had to deal with all this shit and go through all these things and get so much context on having, my grandparents who loved me so much and my parents who were just a constant disappointment, like that gives you a ton of context before you're 15 years old. I might as well do something with it.
Yeah.
I got to do something. I can't just sit here and be, Yeah. It doesn't make any sense. But it's crazy. Life is a fucking crazy trip.
It's awesome.
But to try to understand the patterns of your life and how you got to where you are is such a fun journey to go on.
I completely agree. I feel I just like you, I feel like I've been like 6 or 7 completely different people. Like I look at certain times of my life and I was like, that is like a different. It was like somebody took over my body and like lived for like 8 years, and then somebody else came in, and the transitions between those people are. Well,
what are if you had to like name them? Like what are the major ones? What are the major alleys?
Party girl, super nerd when I was growing up. I mean, just nerdy, artistic girl.
Yeah.
Like up until probably 9th grade, and then I just really tried really hard in high school because I just felt so fucking awkward. I didn't know how to deal with anything. And then 20s through 30, I was a complete rager. I mean, party girl.
What kind of partying?
I mean, just drunk all the time, and then cocaine like you couldn't. Cocaine, ecstasy. I mean, and like because I was when I was 21, I started dating a guy that was 30. Good. And it was the first, and I was a senior in college, and he was like, he picked me up in an Aston Martin, and I was like, my life has been made. Like I was like, and done. I nailed life. I successfully made life.
I'm doing blow in an Aston Martin, getting shit-faced.
Yeah, like he took me to France, and then I met adults who like did drugs, and I was like, adults do drugs?
Like adults do the best drugs.
I was like, I didn't even know adults did drugs. That's so interesting. All these people are successful, yet they're fucking raging all the time. Like, We had a coffee can full of ecstasy at our house.
A coffee can, like
Like a
Folgers.
whole Folgers can, because he traded the drug dealer. He built the drug dealer a laptop, and the drug dealer dropped off a coffee can full of ecstasy. So for about 6 months, we passed out ecstasy like it was candy.
That's
like
good.
every place we would go, we would just be like, "Here, everyone have some." I mean, it was just like, what in the fuck were we doing? But then come to find out, he was an abusive dickhead.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It makes him, and he was like crazy narcissistic and a pathological liar.
Most 30-year-olds who drive an Aston Martin and pass out ecstasy from a coffee can
and are dating
hot
college
21-year-olds
girls. I'm like,
have narcissistic tendencies.
Maybe.
I don't know if you've picked up on that now, but that's a pattern of human behavior that I feel like it's pretty reliable.
nailed it.
It's like, what do you do in your free time? Well, I pass out ecstasy from a coffee can and I drive around an Aston Martin and pick up college girls. Like, you're probably a douchebag. Not just putting that out there. I mean, you should maybe do some self-reflection and resolve your douchiness.
Yeah. Yeah.
But man, life's a funny game, you know, and it feels like a game now. I think once you gamify it and just make it all about, I don't know, about playing in whatever way that means, and then if you can play fully and then just do the stuff that you have to do that kind of sucks to allow yourself to play more, it ends up being really fun.
I completely agree. And I feel like that's where I've gone to, where I've got a lot of acceptance for whatever happens. I'm like, well, let's see what the fuck we can make out of this. Well, that seems like a weird thing that I didn't know was going to happen. I'm sure we can turn that into something. Don't know what's going to happen now.
The not knowing, though, is fun.
I really like it. A lot of people, they like flip the fuck out when they don't know what's going to happen. They're like, oh God, what? Because they act like they're in control of anything. That's the biggest thing. I'm like, you have no control, right? Yeah. Like, you're just like making shit up like you can control what's about to happen. I think that's real cute.
I know, it's adorable.
It's adorable.
Well, it's like creating expectations.
Yeah.
It is. And it's like I'm planning out 2018 right now.
Yeah.
So I'm like drawing out the things I want to do, which is one thing. Fully knowing as I draw this out, it's kind of absurd because it's going to be so much different when I actually get there. It's nice to have a plan. Like, I'm going to launch.
You need a plan.
The Design Your Life journal is going to come out. I want to do a TEDx talk. Like, I have these things, right? And I have to put the plans in action, but by the time they actually happen, they will be completely different than what I'm assuming them to be now. And that freedom is liberating. I call it, I was on mushrooms this one time down by a creek. Spent a lot of time with mushrooms down by creeks in my life. And I was watching, it was at the Greenbelt. And I'm going to try and describe this in my monkey language, but there's a big slab of stone. Yeah. And since the Greenbelt dries and the Barton Creek that goes through there, it's dry a lot, and then it comes up, and this big rock had a bunch of little eroded crevices through it. So they were all different directions. And they go, and it's like little humps, and it was really beautiful if you go down there when it's dry. Yeah. And then I started to realize that nothing. Oh, I was also listening to Alan Watts. He talks about how there are the only straight lines that exist in the world are ones that we've created. Yeah. Like, straight lines aren't really a thing. We kind of made them up. Yeah. And then we try to live our life in a straight line, which doesn't make any fucking sense. Oh. And so I saw that, all these flowing creeks go to one place. They're all going that way, but they don't go in a straight line. Yeah. They go in, and I started calling it semi-directed persistence. Like, I'm going that way, but I'm not super concerned with exactly staying inside the boundaries of assumptions and expectations. I'm just gonna let it flow. Yeah. But I know I'm going that way. Yeah. And if I have to, go a little bit this way, go around some things, go through something. Yeah. Am I gonna get puddled up sometimes? Probably, but it's just gonna wind and cruise, and then I'm gonna die. But hopefully the ride was cool. Yeah. And and then the legacy, in quotes, the legacy that I get to leave is something that's pretty dope. Yeah. Yeah. I like it. But it's all I love that. I like that visualization. You're completely right. Like, nothing in nature is a straight line. Yeah, not all. We're wiggly. We're wiggly as fuck, and we always try to be like, oh, so no, this is me. I'm like, I'm this. God damn it, I'm this. My ego tells me that I am this, and I will be that until the day I die because I've always been that way. That is the best part. That I've always been that way is the other thing. That it's like, no, you haven't. Have you always been that way? Yeah, exactly. So Mark England is one of my, he's a mentor of mine. He's been on the show before. He's a fantastic guy, and that's one of the things that he attacks. My mom got super pissed at me one time. She's like, you always do this, and I'm like, always? Do I always do it or do I sometimes do it?
Yeah. Or have I done it 2 or 3 times?
Yeah. It's like, if you just change the language around that and say I sometimes do, then it is a little bit more liberating.
Oh, yeah. That language is really important.
Super important.
Those like finite, like you're like this is, why do you always do that? You never do this.
You never always. Yeah. They're super, and then you get on the defensive, like, no, I don't always do that. And then it just
and then you just start naming off, I didn't do it this time, and I didn't do it this time, and I didn't do it. And you're like, that's not even the point of the conversation.
Well, and even to expand on that and go into, I've always been this way, or this is just who I am. If you change the language of this is just who I am, first off, just get just out of there. And this is who I choose to be, because that's what it is. Mm-hmm. That's ownership. Then you have ownership, like, oh, wow, do I really choose to be that way? And then you can recognize your patterns.
Yeah.
And be liberated in the future going forward. It's like, well, then if I choose, does that serve me? Because I have the power to choose
differently.
Yeah. And
if it's not
evolve,
working,
because just like you said, we've lived like 6 different lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Love it.
I do too. So what are some other lives? Yeah, we're recording, dude.
Oh, we are?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I sneak it up on some people. Whenever the conversation's going on.
I was like,
for all the podcast listeners out there, sometimes I just hit record and don't tell people.
I'm like, we're just chilling with headphones on and native.
Shout out Native Hostel again. Pleasure Monkey Podcast home.
I love it.
If you're in Austin and you want to sleep in a bunk bed with another person, that's probably pretty cool, and eat awesome food and drink good drinks. Come to Native Hostel
for $50. It's like it's like the best, coolest deal in Austin.
I know, and you can
and the people here are really rad.
They are super rad.
It's the see and be seen scene currently in Austin.
It is. I'm seen here often, like every day. Often isn't every day.
Yeah,
actually, I came here kind of 8 times in 1 week.
Wow.
So, yeah, which is weird because I was here for like meetings and hangouts after I would come here and work during the day and then go home, and then I'd be like, where do you want to meet up? And I was like, Native, let's go. So anyway, so you had your party phase, and then what's another life that you've lived?
Well, when I moved, so I was married from the time I was 30, officially married from 27 to 30. Mm-hmm. But we were together for about 7 years.
This is not the Ecstasy Aston Martin
guy. This is not the Ecstasy Aston Martin guy. No, this is my ex, Tommy. He awesome dude. But
Tommy.
Shout out Tommy Shook. You're awesome. You're still awesome. But it was one of those things that I've had these big growth spurts in my life, and I've always been really into self-development. It's like from when I was about 18 on. Like I got into yoga when I was 18, and I really realized like, oh, that's interesting. You can really kind of start to listen to yourself, because it wasn't something that we did in a family. Like my parents, although we're really into therapy, my dad actually got really into shamanism, and after my parents got divorced and like met this Peruvian flute player guy, and they used to go to Hamilton's pool and stand under a waterfall. I'm not sure what was going on there. I need to ask my dad a little more about
definitely,
I'm sure there was some drugs going on. But Tommy was amazing, and we were very connected for a long time. And then it was one of those things, like my life kind of grew in a certain way, and we met when I was 23.
Yeah.
And I thought, speaking back to this, I thought my life was going in a certain direction. We had planned that our lives were going in this certain way.
Yeah.
And guess what? That didn't happen. And I had this kind of growth spurt at work and got into this really amazing facility and was training these great people and athletes and families, and was exposed for the first time to very successful people ever in my life, where people were like not only financially successful, which was definitely the thing, but then just like led other lives, you know, like had these like very adventurous, interesting lives where they were also helping people and were kind of developing. And that was the first time me getting exposed to that. And I was like, yeah, this is it. Not only do I want to be financially successful, and I'm not going to feel guilty about that, but I also do want to do other things. And, you know, we came to this crossroads where it was like, he didn't want to go with me, and I didn't want to stay where I was.
Yeah.
And it was this really hard, sad decision, but one of us was going to be resentful. Resentment had already started.
Yeah.
Because he was like pissed. because he was like, "Why are you doing that?" I don't.
Well, you were the one changing the plan.
I was.
Yeah.
I mean, I was. In his mind, that's what was happening. And in my mind, I was like, come with me.
Yeah.
This is going to be fucking awesome.
Oh, I've definitely had that
like,
conversation
we can
before.
do it together. And he just was not there yet.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest with you, we don't talk that much anymore. I don't know if he ever got there, but he was really happy to stay where he was.
Yeah.
And I was not. And so I had to make the hard decision that it just wasn't going to work out for us, which was very sad. But the most memorable thing I've ever heard in therapy was like in our last couples therapy session was, I would have stayed miserable with you forever.
Oh, wow.
And it was one of those things like, that's actually very sweet in one way and super fucked in another. But
there's a lot of statements that are very sweet and also super fucked up. That's a common thing.
Yeah. And so it was one of those things like, it was like, I don't want to be miserable at all. I need somebody that is as excited about personal growth as I am. And that was, I think, one of the things that I learned from that relationship ending was this is not a phase. Like this, me being like continually pushing my edge is not a phase.
Yeah.
It is how I am as a person and how I function. And I need a partner that is ready to do that at all points and isn't nervous about, like going deep, talking, doing whatever it takes, like having the hard conversations. And then, of course, I made another bad decision in a relationship. Because you don't really learn the first time.
No.
It wasn't a bad decision, but at that point, we broke up. And I'd been in Austin basically my whole life. I left a little for college, but I was raised here.
Yeah.
But I'd always viewed myself as this very open-minded person. But then I kind of felt like you can't be that open-minded if you're in the same town that you grew up in.
You're not exposing yourself to much context at all.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, well, it's super easy here. I mean, I have all this stuff. And so I'd always wanted to go to culinary school. So at 31, I quit my career. I kind of gave up my business in the fitness industry and packed my car and moved to California by myself to go to culinary school. And that was the hardest next 5 years that I've ever had in my life. The biggest growth I've ever had, but the biggest ass kicker. Hello, ego check. Hello, who the fuck do you think you are? Big check.
Those experiences seem to correlate with growth pretty strongly.
Yeah, it was like completely take yourself out of everything you've ever known and throw yourself into super high stress situation. And you'll either figure it out, and I didn't figure it out for a long time. I reverted, I've been in and out of having an eating disorder for most of my adult life, and I'd really gotten it back in check. And I was like, I'm healed, and I never had to tell anybody. Isn't that fancy? Oh my God, nailed it. Nobody needs to know about my giant shame hole that I've been living in. Don't worry about it. And then I went to culinary school and I was like, where eating disorder people shouldn't go? Culinary school. Yeah, right. I'm like, every trigger known to man, just like in your face. And then in debt for the first time in my life, out of my routine because I didn't have a gym. I was going to school full time and then I was working full time. So I would start school at 6 a.m., get done at 1, be at the winery at 2, and work till 11. And I did that for 2 years straight.
Yeah.
And it was like, I've never been so tired. I've never been so unhealthy. And then all my shit just like, I was out, I didn't have my community. I didn't feel like I made any friends. So I was super disconnected. And in that place, of course, when you're not connected and you're unhealthy, you really bring in the best people into your life.
Oh, absolutely.
Nailed it.
Yeah. Come in, everyone. Bring me all your bullshit. Please dump your shit onto my life.
Yeah, maybe I can focus on you.
I need to bring in some people that are shittier than me so that I can then feel normal based upon the comparison with your fucked up life. And bring it all into myself because that's what I feel like I deserve.
Yeah.
That's
Have you done that?
No, me
never.
I've never done that. No, I live a pretty righteous life of of pure self-development and constant positivity. I listen to Eckhart Tolle books and
all day long.
Yeah, all the time. That's all I do. And I just giggle and smile and shoot rainbows out of my ass.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Yeah, people have said that to me. They're like, "You're so happy all the time." I'm like, "What?" It's like
you talked really 1 hour.
Yeah, I was like in that. I used to coach CrossFit back in the day.
Yeah,
I would be like, that was some crazy times. I was working the same type of deal. 5:30 a.m. is when I got to the gym, so I get up I wanted to be awake, so I wake up at like 4:45.
Yeah,
I'd get there. I would coach 3-4 hours. I would train, and then I'd take a nap, and then I'd coach again till like 8:30 or so p.m. And people were like, but I was really good at I understood at that time in the gym like wasn't my time. Mm-hmm. That was their time.
Yeah.
So there was times I was having like a fucking emotional breakdown in my truck when I pull up. Mm-hmm. And then I'd like get my shit together, go coach a class at 100, like whatever. And then after it was all done, I would get back in my car and be like, now it's my time again to be like in my space. But I was always really good at bringing that to people. Should have done some of these podcasts like in a super crazy place. Some of the best ones.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But I totally resonate with what you're saying and how it's funny how your internal environment really does create especially when it comes to connections with other people, create your reality, which really the people in your life and the connections that you have have so much to do with your self-expression. Mm-hmm. It's crazy. It's a crazy experience. And then creating the self-awareness to create space for positivity, understanding kind of the barriers to entry, if you will, for having a connection and valuing your connection and what you pour into people and how the good stuff and the bad stuff comes through a connection, and you have to be willing to accept that in people and embrace their shadow too. We talk about love. Somebody's asked me about my past relationship and about, that was the strongest love I've ever felt for anybody ever. Right. And it was like, yeah, you love all the good things. And I was like, no. I loved all of it. Like all of it. The same. It wasn't anything I loved more than the other. It was just, it was all of it. Like the dark, the bullshit, the beautiful things, all of the things. And that was a huge learning experience for me because I learned how to do that, which is a super valuable trait to have.
Well, that's really what unconditionality is about. Is mm-hmm. like, can you fully accept people? And by fully accept, I mean non-conditionally. Yeah. Like, I like that you do this, but I don't like that you do this. And I think so many people go into relationships thinking that, well, number one, that people are going to change, that I love the potential of you. Like, I don't actually love you. I love the potential of you. And, one of my favorite things to talk to people about is, like, if nothing changed, if you're unhealthy in a relationship and nothing changed, are you okay? Like, are you fine that if they never changed anything about themselves, do you love them?
Yeah.
And really, it's about what can you give as opposed to what can you get. Relationships so much are like, well, they're not doing this and this and this for me. And instead, you have to shift that. Everything in your life is about what you're showing up and giving. It's not about what you're getting. Life is not about what it gives you. I mean, that is just the dumbest fucking thought, that you've showed up with some expectation that you deserve something from the universe. It's complete and utter bullshit.
I know. Life owes you nothing.
Like, absolutely nothing. It did something. It put you here. And if you're in charge of the rest.
And if you are from a life of a fuck ton of privilege too, and that's where it gets weird. 'Cause that's where entitlement comes from, right? It's like where things have. It's a patterning of understanding that you've gotten things for nothing, for just being alive, and that should continue. It should, which is should is a fucked up word, anyways. that should just continue and for the rest of your life, which. Once you can put that aside and be like, holy shit, I'm super grateful for all the like gifts that I was given that most people don't have. But also understanding that the homeless guy that just I walked by on the way in here is just like me too. And life gave him some fucked up shit. And even though I've had my challenges with certain things, like the world doesn't owe me a goddamn thing. Mm-hmm. And once you know that, it's like, well, then everything's fucking beautiful. It's almost hard. It's almost harder to like to strive for chasing bullshit when you're like, man, fuck, it's just awesome to be here.
Yeah.
I'm not entitled to anything. And all this could be taken away from me tomorrow.
Yeah.
Today, whatever. But it's a crazy feeling. And then when it's so liberating though. It's a delicate dance to work with, but it's something to be able to bring that to people is so powerful.
Yeah. That's why, I mean, I started studying Stoicism because of Tim Ferriss like years ago, but really Ryan Holiday is like my spirit animal. I love that man.
Yeah.
He actually lives here, so if you'd like to hang out, like, let's be friends.
He's probably listening to the podcast. He's definitely, Ryan Holiday is definitely listening
Ryan
to the podcast.
Holiday, I'm obsessed with your books.
He's a fantastic writer. Really cool dude, too.
He's
Shout
amazing.
out Ryan Holiday.
He's amazing. But really that idea of what if, changing your perspective to what if every single thing was a gift? Like everything, like every fucked up situation, like every single thing that happens to you is a gift. Imagine that mindset change if like everything was helping you to practice you being your best self.
The obstacle is the way.
I mean, it really is the obstacle in the way. And nobody wants to read like Ego is the Enemy, but I'm telling you, if you're running away from that book based on the title, you should read it today.
Well, no, so that's something so Ryan Holiday inspired the hell out of me. And I had a huge transformative kind of shift. When I closed my gym, and I'd been researching Stoicism and reading Meditations of Marcus Aurelius and Ryan's books. And Ryan's books are all great. Like Trust Me, I'm Lying is a fantastic book. He's a fantastic writer. And he tells really great stories.
Yeah.
But I noticed that the Stoic principle of pretending to be poor one day a month, right? So because back then they didn't have Facebook, so if you're Socrates and you dress like a homeless guy and go walk around, like no one really knows who you are, right? Mm-hmm. And you're dirty and you're kind of dressed down. And so what I did when I left my gym was I understood that I'd had everything that I thought I wanted. Since I was 19, I was like, I'm going to open a gym. I'm going to do this. It's going to be great, whatever. And so I did all the things, and I was 28 or something. And I realized that I wasn't happy. Really, I was happy in moments, but I wasn't full. Mm-hmm. That's a better descriptive verb there. I wasn't full. So I was like, fuck, man, I've got to figure this out. Because really, life's too short for me to be just chasing shit all the time. I don't want to be chasing things. So I took a few months. I sold all the equipment in my gym, and I got out of, figured out the loan situation and sorted all that out. And I was like, okay, I've got like 3 months that I can live without working if I live super minimally. And I was like, God damn it, I'm going to be happy if I have to live in a hammock under a bridge. I'm going to be happier than I've ever been with less than I've ever had in my entire life. Because I have had a pretty great life as far as not needing anything and being able to go to school and all, having friends and all this stuff. So I just kind of spent time on my own. And, that was based upon like Stoic philosophy, and I loved it. It was a super transformative moment in my life. And what I started to realize, and that's what I'm funneling now into the Design Your Life journal, is we keep there's this kind of spiritual bypassing trend of like don't get hung up on the past. But in my view, and maybe this is just my crazy ass view on the past, I think that's where everything is going to be past at some point. Like the future is just future past, and right now is the past now.
Yeah.
Like when I just said that is now the past.
The past just happened.
So, but you create context on how to live based upon the patterns that you experience in life. And those tend to, after a certain amount of time, kind of put boundaries upon your experience. And if you can start to understand your patterning and then make conscious decisions about how you want to express yourself, you can live a really full life, and it's very powerful. But you also have to understand that your identity is as flexible as anything in the world. It's wiggly as fuck. And to do that, to see that, and to feel that is really liberating as well. Like then you can take, you mix a little bit of understanding of your patterning, understanding of your history, how you got where you are, knowing that you kind of just fell out of a person, and then you had parents, and you didn't really choose those parents, and you didn't really choose where you went to school, and that's really where you get a lot of your context on how to behave and how to be. So your decisions are made on context of the past. So you kind of need some reflection there. And if things keep coming up from the past, they need to be dealt with. They're not there they can't just be like, oh, I don't want to get hung up on the past. It's like, look at it, see it. Once you can see it, you can let it go. Once you can see your shadow and see your bullshit and see your patterns and understand who you are, then step 2, have some compassion for yourself, which then you can spread out to the rest of the world. And then you can take ownership of your experience fully, but without an understanding of how you got to where you are and having compassion for your bullshit, because just like JP Sears says, we're all full of shit. And that's okay. That's okay.
He made us say that, actually.
He made us say that several times. And I've said it several times since then. And it's a crazy experience to understand, like, okay, cool. Well, I know, for example, I talked about my mom on the show, and my relationship with my mom a lot, and we have today is like, they're not mine, but I experienced some abandonment issues.
Yeah.
So now I know that. Okay, cool. That is my past. I'm not hung up on it. But since I'm a human being and I'm conditioned based upon my experience, if certain things happen that will trigger that or push that button, then I know, okay, well, I'm going to have compassion for myself because I didn't choose that. It just happened, and I'm okay. And if something comes up that's in alignment with that trigger, I can give myself a little bit of space and say, does this serve me to feel this way? And then address it. Oh, no, it doesn't. Cool. Now I've made a conscious choice to move forward and repatterned my behavior. And that's super powerful, but you have to understand that you aren't who you think you are. Actually, no, fuck that. You are exactly who you think you are.
Yeah.
And if you think that you're a verb and don't ascribe to the belief that you're a noun, then...
I love that.
Yeah, I didn't make that up, but I stole it. But then you have all the power. You have all the power to create what you want to create and have space in your life. And once, I don't think the law of attraction is a fucking thing, and I'm going on a long-winded rant here, but...
No, I like it.
I think the law of attraction is fucking horseshit. Because things don't... The law of attraction to me feels like, okay, I'm sitting here on this couch and I want something, so it should just like magnetically be drawn to me. Yeah. Maybe that happens sometimes, or maybe you're going to flow through life. I think about life as flowing through you. You aren't living it. It's literally flowing through you, and then it trickles out, and then you're done, right? And that's okay with this life, and then you go to the next thing, whatever that may be. It's probably going to be a surprise, so everybody hold on tight for that. But... when you understand, like, okay, well, I've have patterns in my life that draw my experience in and make it smaller. And if I can start expanding those, then I'm creating openness in my life. And as I continue to move and flow through experience of life, if I can create space, that opens up my filter to notice and accept more things in that are in alignment with who I am. And that to me is a law of attraction, because you don't have a choice but to move forward, move some direction, right? Yeah. So you're moving, and if you have space for new things to fit. But the more identity you've created for yourself and a stronger idea of who you think you are, and you've added rigidity to your identity, you're blocking things from being able to be accepted. And without that new experience, you don't have as much context to move forward with.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I love so many of those things that you said. And I mean, I completely agree about people are often like, just stay in the present, just stay in the present, just stay in the present, which... I agree. Be mindful and try to be present with whatever you're doing. But at the same time, there was a reason Marcus Aurelius did daily write-downs of basically decompressions every single day in his meditation. There's a reason he kept journals. I mean, it's because he didn't write it and then never go back and read it. I mean, these are lessons. Yeah. You have to identify your patterns. And I'm a big proponent of, like, the universe is trying to teach you all the lessons you need in order to be like a thriving big as fuck person. Yeah. And if you're not getting the lesson, it's going to just keep throwing it at you until you pay attention. And everybody's felt that. You're like, I feel like this has happened before. And then it happens in a bigger way. And then it happens in a bigger way. And then the universe takes a sledgehammer and bangs you upside the head with it. Yeah. You know, and it's one of those things, if you're not paying attention to these patterning things that you've done your whole life, you're never going to be able to step back into a new way of being. Because you're not, it's that realization. You know, you're like, I tend to do this. I also have abandonment stuff. And when it gets triggered, now I can actually tell, am I really like freaking out? Or is this just triggering my shit around my mom? Yeah. And very similar. It's like, oh, well, I better create distance. Oh, I better make sure that I have a side gig, on my, mine has come up multiple times with the people I've been with because I was like a serial cheater. And why did I do that?
Feel you there.
To create distance so that I didn't really have to be honest and vulnerable with you. And so I had an out on the side. Yeah. You know, like, how do I not really deal with you? I pretend and project my shit on you and be like, you're not giving me what I need, what I deserve. I deserve all this. Why aren't you showing up the way I'm supposed to? I'll get attention from this person over here. Yeah. That'll make my ego feel better. And then I'll blame it on you for the reason I stepped to the side.
The fact that you're owning that right now is fucking awesome.
I mean, but that was my whole life. I was like, man, where did I didn't get the attention I needed when I was a kid? Mm-hmm. And where did I start to get it? From men. Hell yeah. And watch this. I can play you like a fucking violin all day long. I'll make you fall in love with me, become obsessed with me, and then you'll be too close and you'll try to figure out what the fuck I'm doing. And I'll say, hey, bye, and I'll just break your heart. I mean, that was like pattern. Yep. I mean, I did that. And I remember after I broke up with my fiance in California, and I went to my therapist, and I was like, I have left a trail of broken men behind me that I have ripped their souls out. I mean, I dealt with my fear of being vulnerable and honest with people in some of the most unhealthy ways, which a lot of times was, I can't be honest. I have all these shame things. This is, I kept my eating disorder a secret my whole life from my husband, from my family. And then I wondered why I couldn't be close to people.
Yeah.
Why is nobody showing up? It's because I came at everybody with this mask front of happy, super joyous, crazy party girl. Everybody loves me, life of the party all the time. And then I would go home and be in the biggest shame hole, wanting to commit suicide, clinically depressed. Nobody knew about that.
Yeah.
But I never wanted to tell anybody, because if anybody found that out, I was the biggest fraud on the planet. Everybody would realize that I was full of shit. Yeah. And nobody would ever really be able to love me. And what that goes back to is the one person that I always wanted love from, my mother, she left.
Yeah.
Because she left because of me. In my mind, because you're a kid. I'm 13. I totally feel that, you internalize that. You're like, if I would have been a better daughter, or if she stayed around for my sister, and then she left.
Yeah.
How do you internalize that? And then what is that pattern that comes back up and back up and back up? And mine was, I better be the happiest, sweetest, nicest person and never let anybody see any kind of shadow, because that's the only way people will love me. But instead, what you do is actually create distance, and then people fall in love with that persona, and then you resent them for that. Because you're not in love with me. You're in love with some bullshit that I made up, and you believe it.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. And that pattern, I didn't come to really accept that pattern in myself and actually give that little girl love until I was in my mid-30s, and really forgive my mom. I surfacely had forgiven my mom a long time ago, but I was pissed.
Yeah.
I was pissed. And I really have, I think through plant medicine has really allowed me to understand what my mother must have been going through in 100%. Order for her. Everybody's just doing their fucking best. I really do believe that. I mean, when Brené Brown said that, I was like, she goes, what if you really thought everybody was doing their best? And I was like, can you imagine what was going on with my mom, that she thought the best idea was to move across the country and leave her 13-year-old daughter with a bipolar crazy artist that had no skills and to raise a daughter? Yeah. He didn't have no skills. He is the most amazing man. But he is this very artistic, kind of crazy out there person who I am so blessed to call my dad, because he's the one that gave me so much of my personality that I love. My zero fucks is all dad. But she left me in this very hard situation at a very young age. But she must have been in a really hard place that felt like the best choice.
Yeah.
That must have, and sadly we haven't 100% rekindled that relationship. We are close, but we're not as close as we want because she hasn't forgiven herself.
That's the biggest thing. And to piggyback on that, it's so common. That's where I am with in my relationship with my mom. It's like, I can't even have a conversation about it because there's so much shame on their end that if it gets brought up, where I'm like, hey, let's talk through this thing. And I love talking through this stuff. I think it's super liberating, and you end up feeling free and clear and kind of complete with the situation, where it's like, no, you have to let go of the past. I think and honestly, that's where a lot of this shit comes from. I'm kind of grateful for it because I get to turn it into something that may help people in some way, but yeah, it's so challenging. I'm like, can we not just dissolve this, please? It's fine. But I need you to let go of it, so we can be together in it. I've done that. I've found gratitude for all of it, but until you cannot be ashamed of yourself and bring that to me, then we just can't get there. But with a lot of compassion, I look at you and say, I fucking feel you. But that I can't. This me being pretty adamant about what I'm going to accept into my life. I know that you birthed me, you know, and I know that you did the best you could. And I can't imagine being 20 years old, having a kid on accident, and having to figure this all out. And I ended up giving the context like really, really awesome.
Yeah.
But until you can forgive yourself, we can't, you know, I can forgive you as much as I can, but I still look at you in like almost as with like pity, because if you touch that button in your life, you freak the fuck out.
Yeah.
And I don't know what to do about that. It's like, I just have to live, you know, and hope that maybe one day you sort it out. But to go on another long-winded rant, it's like whenever you're committed to a religious system that leverages shame for human behavior control, it's really, really difficult to make those changes. And then, again, this people that you're around. If you're in a supportive environment of understanding where, hey, people can hold space for you while you investigate yourself and share yourself and start to really accept your shadow and see your bullshit, it makes it so much easier. We're like, man, guys, like I know I kind of lost my shit there for a little while. Thank you for sticking with me through that. Because that's something, you know, as people that will leave, if you're going through some shit, they'll turn their back on you. Like, I don't want to fucking deal with that. Where it's with the people that really truly love you, they won't get in the shit with you necessarily, but they'll stay with you through it. Does that make sense?
Oh, completely.
And having that support system is a game changer. And I've had in the past couple of years, I've had situations where I felt like going through shit, everyone was just like, nope, don't want to fucking deal with you. And I was like, well, fuck, now I'm by myself, which really freaked me the fuck out. I'm like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is a completely new situation for me. The craziest things all happen at one time. And then I've had, you know, the opposite. And I'm like, wow, God, it's just so like nice to be able to breathe and be like, I'm going through some shit, but I know that the people that I have in my life, because I created it, not because it just happened, can be there. And I know who those people are, and those people really matter to me a ton. But it's just creating that network of people around you that are supportive and understanding and do the same work themselves, because you're gonna have to do that for them at some point. And if you can bring that, it's gonna be reflected. And if you can even be an example or a leader in how to do that, then people will start to gain context and understand how they can do that for you and other people. And that's a really great way to make a change in the world, just in your own life.
Completely. I mean, I call that really adulting. It's like, but you know, I did this big transition from this party girl, and I've had all these friends for so long. And then you look around and you've made these growth steps, and the surface is no longer acceptable for you. You know, at some point when you've done all this work, you sit around with people that you used to be your besties, and you go like, I don't want to just go to brunch and talk shit about people anymore. Like, okay, like I know that we did that when we were like 25 and we thought it was big fun.
Yeah.
But I need something deeper. Like, I need real, deep, heartfelt connection. And when my stuff comes up, that you don't get triggered and run away, because that's always what it is. People internalize people going away from them, that it's about you. It's always about the other person. It's that seeing you in whatever circumstance you're in is triggering fear in them.
Yeah.
You know, that they're terrified that if they're around it, it's going to rub off on them, or it's going to bring stuff up in them. I mean, I was watching this crazy documentary about this master ballerina who'd been a ballerina for like 20 years in New York, and she was like in her 40s, and she was still the head ballerina at the New York City Ballet, which is athletically insane. Yeah. But she got hurt. Nobody came to visit her. And it is this big thing in ballet that if you get an injury, hardly anybody will talk to you, because it is the reality that is going to happen to them, and they cannot stand in your space and see that, because it's so scary for them. And that is exactly what happens with people when you don't have that real connection. You know, when people are not doing the same work as you, and you start to go through things and people run away, it's always about it bringing up things within them. But it makes it really important to find those people that are there, that are your posse, that are really going to stay when stuff comes up, because it's always going to come up for people. But to be able to do that, you have to be able to be honest with people at the same time. And, you know, kind of going back to the mom thing is like, super similar to your mom is, I mean, my mom's an amazing woman. She's given me, I mean, it really is one of those like adjustments of my mental idea of like, what she didn't give to me to shift, 5 years ago when I finally was like, but if she didn't do this, these are all the lessons I learned from her behavior. This is all the positives I took from it, which are like far outweigh the negatives in my mind. I would never be the person I was if my mom would have stayed, or if I would have gone with her. But right now she looks at me, and when we start to get real close, first off, if I bring it up, she just starts crying.
Yeah.
She just completely shuts down. And the second thing is when she tries to talk about it, I'm her biggest mistake. That behavior
100%.
is her biggest shame hole. And but just like you, I have to just continue to come with her with love and reminding her that I've forgiven her and that all this positivity around our relationship. And I just hope that, that at some point we'll get to a point where she has forgiven herself. And if she doesn't, and if we never make it there, I'm going to have to, the only thing I'm in control of is how I'm coming at it. Yeah. I'm not in control with how she's processing her emotions.
It's 100%. And that's so crazy. It's one of the best statements that I kind of hold with that is she wasn't the person I wanted, but she was the person I needed for this journey. It's crazy. And even after that podcast with Mark England that I spoke about, I had a conversation and I had a really, really profound mushroom experience. That's probably 4 weeks ago now. And I started to understand that one of the reasons that I do the things that I do, and I started understanding my patterns, is that a lot of my life, because I was the oldest and I was the oldest boy and I played all the sports and I was, got most of the things and I lived like a cool life, and my family, lives in a small town in Texas, and there's some low-lying resentment there, right? So my grandparents raised me. And this is another piece of patterning to go into this, but my grandparents raised me and they had more, since oil had gone crazy whenever I was in junior high-ish, they just had more money when they raised me than when they raised my aunts. My mom has 2 sisters. So I got more than they got, which is that fair? No, but I didn't do it. I didn't make oil prices go 3 times and my family isn't oil and gas. Like it was a small time, but there was a lot of resentment there. So as what they brought to me, and then of course I didn't understand this as a kid, is that I was selfish and I was an asshole, and I was, since I got to go to college and I graduated and I did all these things, like I was wrong. And I've been told I was selfish and wrong since I was a child. And I was trying to prove that I wasn't selfish my entire life to the point where it's like, oh yeah, you think I'm selfish? Well, now I'm going to help people. You know what? You think I'm fucking greedy? Well, how about this? I'm just not going to make money. And I'm just going to do all these things for other people all the time and do nothing but help people and sacrifice myself constantly because someone's been telling me how wrong I am my entire life. And then after that podcast and that experience with Mark England and getting to chat with him and working with him and working with my coach, Rhonda Smith, shout out, she's awesome. A lot of self-work in the past 6 months. I had a conversation with my mom, and we talk a lot, but we were talking, and I was kind of bringing up, I was like, hey, I realized that there's a lot of my life I was told that I was selfish, like before I even really could make those decisions. Like I was 10 years old, and people were telling me that I'm a selfish asshole, and that I was rude, and there was definitely times in my early 20s, as most people in the early 20s, where I was kind of a dick to my family because they were like, I'm like, you guys are wrong, you're eating like shit, take care of yourselves, and that's kind of condescending. I get that. But that's not now. I don't do that now, and now they have kids that now think I'm an asshole because they think I'm an asshole. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? But I tried to explain that to her, and I was coming in this place of just pure compassion and kindness. And that's what I was trying to maintain that. And I do get triggered sometimes, but I do a pretty good job of staying easy with it and compassionate. And we go through this conversation, and it triggers her, right? So I just try and hold space for myself. And I'm driving, and I get to the place I've got to go inside. We can talk about it later. If you want to have this conversation, like I just want you to know that I'm willing to have this conversation with you when you're ready to have it. Like you have permission to have the conversation. I'm not going to judge you. But I will also want you to hear yourself talking and understand that in the past 15 minutes, you've told me I'm wrong at least 8 times, and I haven't told you you're wrong once. And just understand that. Like, just hear that from yourself. because that's what's happening. That's what's been happening. That's what's always been happening. And I'm not mad at you for it because I know you're doing the best you can. But I want to be here for you if you want to try to understand that.
Yeah.
It was a huge, and that like she just was just quiet. Because I wasn't being a dick. I wasn't like, fuck you for telling me that I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But when you're scared, like I feel like sometimes she's a scared little girl. And she's just a person. Once you make that decision that your parents aren't superheroes, they're just fucking people. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's a crazy experience. But seeing the patterns is so powerful. And it's like, okay, well, cool. Do I accept that as my reality now? No. Okay. Well, I can go do the things that I want to do because I know that's not my truth. That's just somebody else who was doing the best they could and was confused and didn't understand and was resentful because of their own experience. And that's not my fault. I was just there.
Yeah.
And it was the easiest. I would consider it like in the political terms, like punching up. Like you can make fun of white dudes. It's fine. But don't make fun of somebody who's less privileged, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, I got the most. So if you could make me the scapegoat for all your bullshit because you're punching up.
Yeah.
Because I have something you don't have.
Yeah.
And that's fucked up. But at the same time, since I do have those things, I have a little bit of space, a little bit of privilege to explore myself and then bring compassion to the situation. And that's the best thing you can do. Instead of being like, oh, I'm a victim now because everybody's punching at me. It's like, well, you have more than they do and they don't really understand. They're doing the best they can too. How about you use all that to generate some compassion and bring that to the situation, and maybe you can help enlighten it a little bit.
Yeah. Did your mom come back to have that conversation?
Oh, not yet.
No.
Yeah. One day. I almost got her to do some things, but she's getting there.
Yeah.
Maybe one day. Maybe not. Who cares? I don't know. Just doing my thing.
Yeah, exactly. Do what you do.
She might listen to this podcast though.
Oh.
What's up, Mom?
Shout out, moms.
So yeah, shit. It's a crazy life we live.
Yeah, definitely. Now I completely lost my train of thought of what I was gonna run on that with. Well, let's talk about something else.
Let's talk about something else. So you went to God, I'm like giggling now. I'm like off in this like conversation and like that mushroom trip. That mushroom trip sucks me back every time. Yeah. So what kind of plant medicines have you explored with?
Mostly just mushrooms and then LSD.
Really? So you haven't done ayahuasca or
I
any
have
of those?
not done ayahuasca.
Nice.
Yeah. That's on the short list of the next year. It's definitely on the list this year.
On the list. So what are when it comes to those substances, what are the biggest, I would say, like shifts and patterns that you've experienced with that? Because we've talked about this before the show about how profound those changes can be.
For me, I think the number one thing is the real internalization and integration of the fact that we are all the same person in different bodies. And that really the compassion not only for yourself, but empathy for every person that you encounter. I really am at peace with that. And I also think it's helped me a lot with patience and acceptance for what actually is, as opposed to, this idea of what I think should be happening, all these expectations that I think ran my whole life. I was always more of a depressed person, so I always was a big, look back and then beat myself up over not being the person I wanted to be or that I didn't handle that situation right. And I've really let go of that a lot. And the realization that everything that I have and need, I actually already have and need, and I don't need to go on this crazy mission to become this other thing because that other thing is going to be better than the thing that I currently am. That it's all just in this flow is like what you're saying of I couldn't be that next person without being this person. And you keep pushing forward thinking only until, I was always one of those people that wanted to grow up faster.
Oh, really?
When I was in high school, actually in middle school, I was super happy. And then in high school, I was like, I just need to be 21. I just need to be in my 20s. And then I was like, I just need to be in my 30s. I was like, why am I hurry the fuck up? Calm down. Just slow roll it a little. And now I feel very good about things happening how they are. I came back and had to kind of rebuild my life and rebuild my business to Austin about 2 years ago. And of course you come back and you're like, within 6 months, I'm going to be making this much money. I'm going to have this many clients and this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to do this and this and this. And then of course that takes a year longer
yeah, of course.
than you think it's going to take in your grandiose mind. Yeah. Is some of that because I was having too much fun? Maybe, but I had a blast. So I'm not going to be angry about it. So I really think the plant medicine has helped that, and really has helped me because now I do it on a very therapeutic level. It's not, I've done mushrooms since I was in my 20s, and oh my gosh, taking mushrooms and going to Eeyore's birthday. I mean, come on, that's who doesn't want to do that? That's fun.
Yeah.
But it's a different thing now. I really go in with an intention now and wanting to break down this programming that I have in my mind. How can I reprogram how my thought patterns work? How can I change my language? How can I really dive into a lot of my self-worth stuff, which continually tends to be abandonment and self-worth, which I think are very much tied together.
Yeah, those are definitely related.
But that's my stuff that comes up is like, am I okay being who I am transparently for everybody and allowing life to happen how it's going to, as opposed to like be so like death gripping everything, like white knuckling, like why is this not happening? This person doesn't like me, and I've never been overly concerned with what people think. That is like, bless my father for like really. People are shocked at how little fucks I give about what people think of me. And it's been like that my whole life. I feel very lucky to be like not ever in the mire of like, oh God, that person doesn't like me. I don't care. I mean, I would like people to like me, but if they don't, it's not about, I really don't view any of that about me. I think that's the biggest free for people. Stop internalizing all your stuff.
Yeah, well, that's JP Sears, again, like I said, he gets brought up on almost every podcast, but since he has such a light way of teaching these things, if you take the practice of, if you notice something about someone else, we did this, if we did this at the Anna Influencer event, if you notice something about someone else, take the time and say, well, what does that say about me?
Always.
Holy shit, it changes the game. You're like, wow, man, I noticed that about that person. What does that say about me? Because another powerful, probably overused quote is, your perception is your reflection. Like we're on this, and then maybe thanks to our good friend the mushrooms, I had this kind of vision of we're all connected in some way in this giant web covered in dewdrops that has let us see ourselves from a bunch of different angles that we're connected to. And that's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
So if you see someone's shittiness, the shittiness in someone, understand that that's something about you that you don't like to accept, so you don't want to accept them because it reminds you of the shit that you have to carry around. And once you can have compassion for yourself, then maybe you can have compassion for that person and see something different in them and see through their nonsense.
Hands down. Every time somebody is annoying you, and this is a practice that I've probably been doing for the last handful of years, is every time somebody annoys me, I do ask that question, like, why is that annoying me? And it always is something about myself that I really hate. Like, there's this girl that I think is highly obnoxious. She drives me bonkers. She never shuts the fuck up. And I'm like, because I'm terrified that that's what people think about me. I really am. I'm terrified that everybody else is looking at me like I'm looking at her and be like, oh, don't talk to that girl. She's really annoying.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But I see that all the time. And I also think it's really good time to, when people come at you from fear or anger or however, they're just being kind of general dickheadish. Try to think about what must be going on in their lives for them to think that's acceptable behavior.
Exactly.
Because something is happening. That whole, like, everybody's fighting an invisible battle that you know nothing about. And if you can bring love to that circumstance, because it's super easy to bring love when everybody is, like, super nice and in alignment, and it's your crew, and you agree with them.
If you live in Encinitas, California, you can do that with everyone.
Yeah, exactly.
Everyone can just float around and get downloads from the universe. Yeah.
But having somebody come at you with kind of vitriol or attack you or whatever, and in that moment stand in love and stand in compassion and stand in empathy. That's the practice.
Which,
the practice of empathy is not for everyone you agree with that's being nice to you.
I had that conversation one time. It was like, well, I easily relate to this person. I'm like, they're just like you. That's not hard. They're just doing the same shit you do. Like that's not empathy. That's just like,
yeah,
I don't even know what that is.
I know you. You're liking yourself. That's what it is. It's like an ego boost. Yeah. It's like I
have empathy for this guy with the man bun over there. It's like, because he's doing that. He's drinking the same coffee you drink, and you'll look the same. Like, what? That's not empathy. Empathy is finding it for somebody that is so far away from you. But when you can stand in that space, and bring that. That's honing the sword. That's creating a tool. Because then when it's a little bit easier, like in the middle, right? It's not somebody who's just like you, and maybe somebody you're in a relationship with. Then that becomes just easy. Because you've it's just like training. You've squatted 600 pounds, so squatted 300 pounds isn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Right. So, but if you just jump in there and you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you can get yourself hurt.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good practice, and I talked about Eat Friends with Josh Trent, and we've started this new Facebook Live series on the Wellness Force, and we talked about that last week about kind of how do you healthy holidays kind of thing, but a lot of it is around the connections and the family dynamics, and this is a good thing to try to practice during this season, because a lot of times there are people in your family or in your circle that maybe you don't agree with on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But can you come at them as opposed to like, oh God, my aunt's a lunatic. I have a lunatic aunt that I do not agree with a lot of her ideas or social beliefs, but there is things that we can connect on. And can you then try to delve deeper with, well, why does she really think that? Like, can you sit and not get triggered in a space with a person that you really feel like is completely different than you?
Yeah.
And number one, to realize that you're probably alike on a lot more things than you're not alike on, number one. So maybe stick to those things. But number two, on the things where you don't agree, can you stand in a space of love and kindness and empathy and realize why they believe that? Because everybody just wants to be loved and accepted and not be terrified and have a safe and loving place for them and their families.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter how much you disagree on things, everybody really does want the same things. People just come at it in a lot of different ways. And so in certain people's minds, they do believe, like, I'll just throw one out, like immigration.
Yeah.
It scares them because they're scared. They really just want to be safe.
Yeah.
I mean, if you thought about like, I hear you. I also want my family to be safe, because that's what they think. It's not, they're not like being like, I hate everyone. I mean, in their minds, they really aren't.
Yeah.
They really are being like, I want my kids to be able to be successful, and I want to be safe in my home and in my own country.
Yeah.
Well, you can understand that.
Makes sense.
I mean, y'all actually do connect. How y'all think about how that looks might be completely different. But you could come at that and say, like, I also want my family to be safe. So I understand that you feel scared about that, because everybody feels scared about that right now with everything happening. So I can feel you on that. So how do you come at every person, even though they're kind of like, that person's crazy, I don't know why they're thinking that, seems like a good idea. But delving into the why, why?
Yeah.
Always asking the why questions as opposed to like getting triggered and thinking they're crazy.
Yeah, that's something I've been writing about a little bit lately is how growing up with parents that were addicts in this weird situation, I became addicted to asking why. That's my addiction.
Is it?
Because it is. I mean, it's like why? Yeah. Why is that? Oh, is that so? But you're spot on, and that's such a huge practice, and that all anybody really wants to do is be seen and understood. That's it. The people just want to be seen and understood, and they never have had that or don't know how, and they've maybe constructed a life based upon external perception, because that's all we really know how to do. We're going to do what works for us early in life, especially, and to actually see yourself is super challenging. But once you can see yourself, you open up the window for other people to see you as well, and that is fucking magical.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, this has been fun.
It's awesome.
Where can people find you?
They can find me on the social medias.
On the social medias.
Allie Waddell, Instagram, Allie Waddell Wellness, Facebook. I'm the co-host of the Wellness Force Wednesday Facebook Live show, which started last week.
You can't promote that because I have a Wednesday Facebook Live show.
Well, I have another one. Now we have so many Facebook Lives. The good news is Facebook Live, hardly anybody watches it live. Everybody watches it later than Wednesday. It's like I have it on Wednesday, but I think most people watch it later. So it's like, whatever.
Most people watch mine later too. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I have a show that Connor is going to be on called Wellness Posse Wednesday, which is also a video show. And so I can't wait.
Our Wednesdays are super busy.
Super busy. We're doing all things wellness on Wednesdays.
All things wellness. Oh, man. That's awesome. And yeah, shout out to Josh Trent, Wellness Force. Go check him out. Yeah. He's a future podcast guest. We've been trying so hard, but he's
coming in town. So,
is he?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
At the beginning of the year.
We've been talking about it.
I'm going out
to the West Coast before that probably. So we'll get together. West Coast living.
Yeah.
Allie, this has been super, super fun. We're going to have you on again.
Thanks, Connor.
So soon. And you're awesome. It's
been
good
you're
to
awesome.
know you.
Yeah. It's like we didn't meet on a dating website.
That story's to come
a dating
next time.
App.
Next time we'll
Many years ago. I'm not making anybody feel weird, but it was a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. We need to tell that story soon. All right. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Connor.
Later.
Well, that's our show. Allie is absolutely incredible. Love that woman so much. We've got another episode with her coming up soon, so stay tuned for that. And if you love the show, go give it a 5-star review on iTunes, leave some kind words, and make my day. Just a quick reminder, if you want to do some one-on-one lifestyle design work with me, you can fill out the application at pleasuremonkeylife.com. Just click the lifestyle design tab. There'll be a few questions there, and I will get back to you super fast, and we will set up your free 30-minute intro call. Now, if you noticed before this episode, I didn't put as many ads as I usually do because I don't feel like you should have to sort through 6 minutes of me rambling, but I do want to be able to share all the cool affiliate code discounts we have and all the brands that support what we have going on. So that's going to happen right now. Feel free to not listen, but if you're interested, check it out. Hate Brand Goods is your home for the dopest apparel in the motherfucking game, as well as the sickest coffee mugs you will ever find anywhere. These guys are driven to create self-improvement through self-loathing. It's pretty aggressive. I like it, though. I met Matt Vincent, one of the founders of Hate Brand Goods, and had him on the show. We hit it off. I love their mission, love what they're about, and I love their gear. So if you want to check it out, it's thehate.com. It's THEHVIII.com. Use code word monkey at checkout. You're going to get 15% off. Couple recommendations. The new Ghost series of t-shirts are super, super, super dope. 3 supers. Yes. They have a black, green, red, and gray, and they dropped their logo on in a murdered out style. It's the same color as the shirt. So those are super sick. I wear them with a Levi's denim shirt on top, and it's very, very fashionable. I'm feeling, actually, that's what I'm wearing right now. It's feels good. Feels like a good combo. Where I'm out, I sometimes just go straight from work to social encounters of various sorts, and yeah, it works well for that. So check it out, guys. Their new joggers are also absolutely bomb. So yeah, Hate Brand Goods. It's legit. Also, get yourself a kick today in the dick coffee mug, because why not? Do it. Make it happen. Thehate.com, HVIII.com. Code word monkey at checkout, 15% off. Make it happen. Procabulary.org. Dial in your motherfucking language. You're talking to people all day, talking to yourself all day. You got all kinds of mental chatter going on. You're using soft language because you don't want to commit. You don't want to be assertive. You obviously don't want to get paid more. You don't want to get laid more. You don't want to be able to represent yourself in a powerful and assertive way. That's so important. It's so important. Go to procabulary.org. Use code word monkey. Get $99 off of the vocabulary course that will absolutely change your fucking life. Go check it out. See what it's all about. You're going to be sold. You're going to make it happen. It's worth the money. Do it. Go into 2018 with a dialed in language system rolling around in your brain. It is worth it. Mark England is an absolute gangster. And if you want to go back and check him out, there's an episode with Mark England a few ago. Get up in it. It is one of the best things I've ever done, ever. And I've done a lot of things. Procabulary.org, code word monkey, $99 off, motherfucker. I get anxious sometimes. And sometimes I can't sleep. It's weird. It sucks. But you know what helps me reduce my anxious feelings and sleep better? 1, meditation. 2, sex. 3, hemp lucid CBD. It is my favorite CBD that I've ever tried. And I've been gifted a bunch of different brands from different people. The guys from Hemp Lucid reached out and said, hey, I want to send you some product. Let me see what you think. Just the way it's in a conveniently sized container. I can keep one in my car, one in my laptop bag, one at home, and I've always got one around. It comes in a hemp oil, MCT oil, and a water-soluble formula. So there's all kinds of different varieties and different things you can do with it. I end up taking a shit ton. I'm talking about 200 milligrams a day, and it is a game changer. There's so many supplements and different things we can take that, somebody said this is going to be good for you, or this, and you don't feel a difference. But with the Hemp Lucid CBD, it's very dense, very strong, and I can tell that it's actually making a change. Absolutely love it, guys. Mostly from a cognitive standpoint. I know there's inflammation benefits as well, but that's a little bit harder to notice. I'm sure that's going on, and that's also very helpful. But when it comes to keeping a level head, staying calm, getting some awesome sleep, and remembering my dreams, that between Alpha Brain from Onnit and New Mood from Onnit and CBD, my dreams are hella vivid, and I absolutely love that. So check it out, guys. HempLucid.com, code word monkey. You're going to get yourself a discount as well. Get you some. The tinctures that I use are, I think they're like $150 a piece. So with a discount, you'll get about $20 off of that, and they last a long time. So well worth the money. Fully endorsed by me and everyone that I've let try it out. Super kick-ass. Check it out, guys. And if you listen to all of this, I'm so proud of you for just listening to me ramble on. I hope you enjoyed the ad reads at the end. And if you don't give a fuck and you didn't listen to this, then you're not listening to me talk right now. But I love you too. I hope you all have an awesome day, an awesome week, an awesome life, and we will see you soon. Peace.